Welcome to the Tea and the Take. I am your host, Gabriella Wisdom, and with me today, I have a very special guest. This is Sarah Murphree. She is an actress, author, and a mental health advocate. And she has an incredible new book coming out called I Am Human Too. And please just tell us a little bit about it. I saw you at John's premiere, which we had John on the podcast. You came in and said something, and I was like, this sounds so interesting. I have to know more about it.
Oh,
and now you're here.
Yeah, so wild. Well, I
Yeah.
saw your podcast on
Thank you.
Instagram and I was like, this looks great.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
It's true. Yes, so this is the book. It's called
Yep.
I Am Human Too.
And I got a copy for myself.
You did. Yeah, so basically the story goes, I spent almost 2 years of my life with the homeless community after my mom was diagnosed with a mental health condition, as a fear developed in me that what if my mom ended up on the street? How would I help her? How would I navigate this? So I spent almost 2 years with people living on the street to really understand why they got there and why they can't get off. As the fear within me was like, could my mom be there? Could I be there with her? And why are so many unhoused people around us and they're stuck? So the book tells the stories of 14 individual homeless people and the lessons of wisdom they shared with me that changed my life forever and really helped me understand my mom's mental health. And all the stories are in this book.
That's incredible. What do you think you got most out of this as a human? Just like I feel like so many people see the unhoused and see them as not people, almost as like we're in a video game and they're just what is it? What is the term? Like not even NPCs. Like they're just not real people to so many people, especially in Los Angeles. How did that affect you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think too, I've learned through this journey that it's so easy to look away from a homeless person. And kind of, I think we as humans see so many homeless people, we get a little desensitized. But when I was going to college, I was a senior in college when this journey began. And I think I have found many of us are raised to kind of fear homeless people, stay away from them. They're drunks, they're dangerous. I, as a kid, heard a lot of this. And I never really took the time to stop and look a person on the street in the eyes. And so after my mom was diagnosed with a mental health condition, I passed a homeless person on my way to my college class. And I'd passed many homeless people because my college was near a homeless shelter. But I never really stopped and looked at them or spoke to them. And on this particular day, I decided to stop and look this homeless man in the eye. And looking him in the eye, it's kind of like my whole life changed. And I was just so aware he was a human and suffering and sleeping, on a sidewalk. And it broke my heart. And so I think that really changed my life forever, just looking a person on the street in the eye. And I think if we all did that, we would be so much more aware that they are humans too.
I love that. I'm from Oklahoma, so when I first got here, the homeless epidemic really broke my heart, and I feel like I have got a little desensitized to it over my 8 years because I think that's also like fear-based. Like you're like, oh, like what if I get hurt? What if this? What if that? And it's easier to ignore it than to stop and look somebody in the eye and just treat them like a person. It's such an interesting situation because I think a lot of people do want to help, but I think it's so fear-based in so many ways. In these 14 stories of these individuals, which one do you think had, if there is one in particular, that impacted you the most and in which way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And just as you were talking earlier about the fear, I think that is such a good point. And something I learned spending time with people who are unhoused is something that came up over and over again is that these people are so afraid of us. And I don't think people realize that. But if there was one thing I really would want people to know, it's that the people on the street are so much more afraid of us who are housed than we are of them. And I remember one person on the street told me once that he's like, the moment you end up homeless, it's like you're not even a person. And he goes, I walk around knowing if something bad happens to me and I call 911, they would never show up for me, but they would show up for anybody who is housed. So I have this awareness that I am alone and I don't have any help. And it makes me very afraid of people who have homes. And I thought that was the most interesting perspective because here they are afraid of people who have homes, and people who have homes are afraid of people who don't have homes. And so my hope is that this book really like dismantles that and shows how amazing it would be to be a friend with somebody on the street. And so in this book, there are 14 different lessons of wisdom. And some of the lessons are a lesson on forgiveness, on the American dream, on peer pressure, on depression. But I found you asked me which one stuck with me the most.
Yes.
The story that really stuck with me the most was a man named David. And what I love about this book is the people who have read it, they all have one story they can't forget.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it kind of just cements into your mind and it stays there. And for me, this story was a man named David, and he taught me about depression. And when I met David, he had ended up on the street because he had a back injury, and the surgery cost him $100,000. And he was a painter for a living. And at this 1 month in his life, he did not have health insurance. And I met many people on the street who had injuries and didn't have health insurance at the time, and that's why they were without a home. So David had a daughter my age, and he hadn't spoken to his daughter in years because he was ashamed he was on the street. And he told me my daughter used to beg me to come to her cheerleading competitions, but he said, when you end up like this, you just try to stay out of everybody's way. And he had fallen into a great depression because of his situation. And sitting with him, I remember how much he reminded me of my dad. You know, he kind of had this jolly look to him. He kind of looked like Santa Claus. He had this white beard, these rosy cheeks, and these blue eyes. And his presence just reminded me of my father. And after this particular interview with him and our time together, he told me that I reminded him of his daughter. And he loved hanging out with me because I reminded him of his daughter. And I, was like, well, you remind me of my father. And what's very fascinating is my dad actually died a year ago. And I never really understood the depths of depression until my dad died. And I was very close to my dad, and I just could not function. I was so deeply depressed and sad that he died in this awful, awful way of having a brain bleed. And I remember what David told me, and, through his own depression, he had taught me, when you lose what you love most in this world, sometimes the only way to get over that is to be around people or animals or things that reminded you of what you lost.
That is so beautiful.
So I found when I'm around people that remind me of my dad, whether it be someone's grandfather or someone's, I just find a sweet comfort because it reminds me of my father.
Yeah.
And so
that's beautiful. I'm so sorry about your dad, by the way.
Oh,
that's so hard to go through. Lose a parent in any sense is very difficult.
Oh, yeah, it's been a challenge.
But it sounds like you have some really good coping mechanisms already that you can kind of pull from.
Yeah, that is. I think that's what's interesting is because I wrote the first draft of this 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so this story with David happened 10 years ago, but it still sits with me till this day. And that's what I find so fascinating about these stories is they hit me years later, even though I experienced all this 10 years ago.
Well, I feel like it's also such a raw human experience that you're having. And how often in our lifetimes do we actually have just a human to human experience? Because we pass by, meet, grocery shop next to, walk past, share a bus with hundreds of people in our lifetime. How many of them are we actually just having a connection with? Somebody that we don't find attractive, somebody that is just there where we are in that moment. I'm going to share a story. It does not have anything to do with the homeless, but it's a human and to human thing that really has stuck with me. So this summer I had a really, really bad breakup, and that is nothing compared to what you're talking about, but it reminded me of this human to human interaction that I had. I was at work when I found out that the person that I had just picked out engagement rings with was cheating on me. And I could not hold myself together. And I work at a Trader Joe's. It is a very glamorous job. I highly recommend it to all the actors out there that don't want to bust tables. But it was my last customer of the night. This woman came into my line and she was very visibly not okay. And I was very visibly not okay. And she was, and I said, how are you doing? And she was like, not good. And I said, me either. And she said, I'm so sorry. And I said, me too. And I said, do you want to talk about it? And then I hope I don't cry. she then told me, she like very tearfully, that her mom was dying and she was hosting all of her family and she did not have time to grieve or say goodbye to her mom because she was hosting and she was trying to give everyone else a chance. And I then was like, oh, how silly of me to cry over some stupid boy who isn't worth a tear whenever someone is like going through this. And we literally bawled our eyes out together and she hugged me and we like stayed hugging for like 5 minutes and we're like closed at this point. And everyone like, I just started this job 2 weeks ago. My coworkers like did not come within 10 feet of me for like a month. They were like, that girl's crazy. Cause I cried a lot at my job. 2 customers and some of them were nice and some of them were like, that girl's crazy. And I'm like, yeah. But that one moment with like is stuck with me for so long because you never know what other people are going through. You never know how they're going to relate to you. And it's like that for me, I just haven't had like a human moment like that with somebody. It was so like that healed a little part of me that day. And it made me be like, you know what, I can get through this. I think that's so special. And I think if you're listening to this episode and there's one thing you get out of it, go have a human interaction with somebody. And particularly somebody that you don't find attractive. Because I think that's an easier thing to do is be like, oh, that person, maybe there's something there. Let me go like try to talk to them and see what happens. Go pick an older homeless man. Go pick anyone, somebody who might seem lonely, and ask how their day is. Because you never know like what that person's going through and how. I mean, I see it every day at Trader Joe's. That's like my favorite thing to do when people come through the line and I see they're sad and they tell me they're sad. And I'm like, I'd love to hear about it, but you don't have to tell me. And the people that do tell me, they usually walk away and it looks like they feel better. Just telling a stranger something if they ask. I'm not saying to try, like,
Yeah. I love this story.
Yeah,
you almost made me cry.
Sorry. No, it's like,
no, it's beautiful. I love that story so much.
you.
First of all, Trader Joe's, they always ask you how you are. And I'm
We
like,
do.
Ah!
But I mean it. But I'm
great.
I'm the one that means it. I would rather you tell me like the truth of like, I'm having an awful day and be like, I'd love to hear. I love the gossip. I love the tea. And I will like listen and like give you advice if you want it or just be there for you.
Oh,
Like some people don't care. I actually do. That's why I love my job.
oh.
But
well, you reminded me of something so powerful of like the human connection.
Yeah.
And I think in so many ways, that's why this book was so powerful to me is I find people who are on the street are so honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned this too. I always tell people this too. Spending time with the unhoused really isn't as sad or depressing as an endeavor as people seem. And I learned when there's really nobody who has a sense of humor as great as someone who has lost everything.
Yep.
And so
yeah.
you were going to say something.
I was, but go ahead. You finish.
I was just going to say this. Yeah, you were reminding me, I think in our world, it gets so busy and it's so, I think so much is going toward like internet, phone, a screen that we don't have many human interactions as people. And you just having that interaction in Trader Joe's like brought me to tears because it just reminded me of like how little I've had that in my life lately now. Because I wrote this 10 years ago and it's just such a reminder to be like, man, going out in the world and just telling people how you actually feel is powerful.
Oh, something that I've really been exploring my sense of style the last like year or so. It's been like a weird therapy for me and something that I've made like a little pact with myself. If I see something that I like, especially if someone's wearing it or if they're styled, I make it a point that if I think it, I say it. And even if it's just walking by me like, hey girl, love that coat. Hey, love that. Love your hair. Whatever it is, especially when people are trying something new and you can tell. And then like, it might not be like a huge, like another human connection, like I just said, like one that's going to stick with you. But like, how often does that happen? I also work at a restaurant. I have 2 full-time jobs. I'm a hostess as well. And like, I make it a point anytime I see somebody come in with like a couple and it's like a date, I always compliment the girl's outfit or I'll compliment the guy and be like, your date is beautiful. And I think how often does that happen too, where we as women are uplifting one another and just putting each other on a pedestal, because I find that men won't do it for us. So we got to do it for each other and ourselves. And it's, to watch somebody either that looks uncomfortable or nervous and then you give them a compliment like that, especially a genuine one, like where you specifically like say something specific about them, to see them light up and just like walk a little bit straighter is it. I found that what healed me the most going through the things I went through this summer was making someone else's day. And because I'm like, if I can make them happy, that makes me happy. Didn't
Oh.
always work, but it did work a
Yeah.
lot of the time. And it's,
Yeah.
imagine how much better the world would be if that's how we went through it.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah,
can't.
that's powerful.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean, that's kind of what I feel like you're doing with this book. That's why when I heard your story, I was like, I have to talk to her about this.
oh, yeah, it's so wild. I think too, people don't often see a homeless person as somebody who could be a friend.
They don't.
And it's interesting, I come from the South, and in the
Mhm.
South, women are often taught to be polite and agreeable.
Where exactly did you come from?
Tennessee.
Amazing. I'm Oklahoma. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
yes.
Midwest. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
So I think that was kind of just a cultural thing I was around,
Yes.
and that was not serving me well. It's like,
Bless your
"Oh,
heart.
you can't be an artist and agreeable. What? So I always really have my friends on the street to thank because
Mhm.
they were so honest that every time I was with them, it was like every conversation was honest. And they
Yeah.
really taught me how to be the maximum version of myself. And I think they healed me in so many ways. And even at the time my mom was diagnosed with a mental health condition, there was a lot of shame around it.
Mhm.
And I think back then people didn't talk about mental health as much as they do now. And so I just really had this narrative of being like, am I the only little girl who has a mom like this?
Yeah.
And I think just spending time with people who were unhoused, they were just so full of life and they were present.
Yeah.
And to be present with somebody, I found was just such a gift.
Oh, absolutely. I can't even, if you ask me how many times that has happened with me, even in the last year, I would have very few moments I could pull from. They would all be from a job that in an interaction that I initiated, not anything that anyone ever initiated with me. Because it feels like I'm working, so it feels like I have to do that. But having especially in LA, you're also an
Mhm.
actress, so maybe you've run into this where it feels like people ask what you do or what your Instagram is to see if you're worth talking to before they even bother having a human
Mhm.
connection with you. And I can't even fathom the difference of meeting a homeless person who has nothing to gain from you, no status, no anything, and they just sit down and actually just have a human conversation for the sake of having a human conversation. Because I feel like I don't have those. And that's making me really
Yeah.
sad just thinking about it. That's making me really, really
Yes.
sad.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very powerful statement. I think there's a lot of truth in what you're saying. Yeah. Because it is true. I find people do, ask your Instagram, oh, they want to see if you're doing something, working. And
Yeah. How many followers do you have? Who's following you? Do you have a blue check
Yeah.
mark? I have
the blue check mark.
I refuse.
know.
I refuse. No.
It's so true. And it's interesting because if I'm dissecting this further, when people ask that, I think everybody needs a job.
Yes.
And I think it's so fascinating. Some people asked me some questions about this book recently, and they were like, do you think people are afraid to look at a homeless person or look them in the eye or talk to them because then it would become apparent how close maybe they are to that situation, or how close a friend is, or an uncle, or it would remind them the bank account's low.
Not just that, but I think it's also the guilt of the privilege that we all take for granted. And it's
Yeah.
how much food do we waste? How much money do we waste? I love to thrift and it's very sustainable. It's not exactly why I do it, but it makes me feel a lot better. And I'm like, how much money do we throw away every year on these things that we don't actually need whenever there are people out there that don't have the basics? They don't have clean socks. They don't I used to get food stamps, especially during the pandemic, and I got way more than I needed. So a lot of times I'd buy chips and make sandwiches. I'd make a peanut butter jelly sandwich and keep waters in my car and I'd pass them out to when I stopped at the stoplight. There was a particular homeless man that I liked that lived by my gym. So I'd pass him one. I'm not going out in the community. I'm not like that. But how often are we recognizing our own privilege, even if we're struggling? Because I'm holding down 2 jobs and it's hard, but I'm still very privileged. I'm extremely privileged to be in the position to live in Los Angeles and have this podcast, chase my dreams, and have the privilege to work those jobs and have a car. And, it's even I forget about the privilege that I have in this country. And I think that even more than what you're saying is it's the guilt of knowing what we waste and knowing what we could do to help if we actually wanted to.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, the fact that you have such heightened awareness for that, I mean, that says so much about you.
I was raised extremely poor. So that's something about me. I was like, I'm the oldest of 8 and I was raised in a 2-bedroom trailer house. Yeah. We were homeschooled. Me and my 8 siblings shared 1 bedroom. We shared a closet. We had like 2 dressers. The only space that was ever my own as a child was I had the top bunk and I had like 2 shelves and like a net with like a bunch of stuffed animals. That was my only personal space as a child. And I didn't know we were really lacking because we didn't go to school. And I think in a lot of ways that was actually good for me because I never really thought about how poor we were. I always thought about my parents for some reason, thought it'd be appropriate to always tell me how little we had and like make me stress out about the bills at a very young age, which I don't. If you're a child, if you have a child, they don't need to know if you can't pay a bill. They're a child.
Yeah.
I remember.
I was raised to know that too. No.
Don't, there's no, like, I was 8 years old being like, can we pay the electricity bill? And I'm like, that's not my problem. My job is to be a child, which that ended quickly at that age, being the oldest. But, you know, I'm very aware of those situations and I'm very aware of like what things cost. And I'm very uncomfortable with people buying me things. Even like around dating, like when I go out with people, I typically don't even let a guy buy me dinner unless I actually like him because I feel like I owe somebody something after that. So it's like, if I don't actually want to date you, like I know it's like a big culture in LA to like have a guy buy you dinner, just like any guy. No. If I if I am letting you buy me dinner, that actually means I like you because I don't feel like I owe you something. I want to spend my time with you. But I get very weird about money because I've had the lack of it. And I mean, I still feel it now.
Yeah. So I totally get that. When you're raised in like scarcity in some way, I think that always sits with you no matter how old you get. And it's interesting. I have a friend who was raised in poverty, but is very successful now. And he's master penny pincher. And he's like 45 now. And he's like, if you're raised in low income or poverty, it really just...
It sticks with you.
Yeah. You remember what it's like.
Yeah, you don't really forget, but I also like, I do dream of having the success financially that I can, you know, do things that no one's ever done for me, like take care of things. Like I would love to be the kind of person that takes my friends out and be like, I'm paying for everything. Like that's something that like I would love to get to a place in my life where that's something I can do just for close friends and family and stuff like that. But I've never been in a position to do those kinds of things. And I mean, still that's so much more privilege than what we're even talking about with this book. But I just can't help but think, for me, I feel like if I sat down and talked to a homeless person and had like an honest conversation, that guilt would come up, even though I'm not wealthy at all. But just the guilt of like feeling like I never have enough whenever I do have actually so much.
Wow, that's
comparatively
so powerful. Yeah. I think what you said touches on a huge reason I think so many of us kind of don't look at homeless people or don't interact with them as much, because even living in LA, it's like a scarcity life. Yeah. Even if you have something, it's always like, oh my gosh, where's the next job? How is this going to unfold? And I think that's just such a powerful thing you said. And just to be aware of like, okay, we're all kind of living in this scarcity mindset, but the people around us, you're right, like don't even have a roof over their head.
One thing I really love about this book, and I noticed, is you have this nice little sticker kind of on it that says, this book feeds people. And so a bit of every proceed that you get from this goes back to feeding the homeless.
That is true, yes.
I love that.
A portion of every book sold goes directly back to feeding them. And it's interesting because when I worked with the homeless community, I learned how quickly like a healthy, nutritious meal, they're like, I can function better, I can think better, I can try to get housing, I can, get a job. I mean, I just found that like nutritious food really has such a huge impact on the trajectory of their life on the streets. And I found so many people on the street would tell me, all I can really afford is McDonald's or Burger King.
Yeah.
But then I'm exhausted and it really doesn't help me much. And I had so many people tell me I would do anything for like fruits and vegetables. And sadly, in this day and age, it's like strawberries are more expensive than McDonald's.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I work at a grocery store, so I would know. But one thing I will say, because this is the first time I've worked at a grocery store, Trader Joe's, anything that isn't bad, but it has like it's like expiring tomorrow, or maybe the package is damaged, we donate. And we have people every day, there's like 10 to 15 boxes high, maybe like 3 or 4 stacks that go out to the boys shelter close to us. And every Trader Joe's does it for their own community. And I'm just like, what would happen if every grocery store did that? Because, and we specifically, my store, we really will donate pretty much anything. We really like to donate. Like if I see something's damaged, I'm like, well, this is going to go to a better place with the cost of food nowadays. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's so much that can be done if we as a society are willing to do it. And one thing that was really powerful to me is you said that so many people are on the streets due to healthcare. And that really resonated with me because it is like having something go wrong with you. Do you want to live or do you want to die? And if you do live, you might end up on the streets or bankrupt because you just needed that life-saving measure, whatever it may be. And our healthcare system is so broken and it seems to be against the people in so many ways. Like even just to have a child is ridiculous in this country. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I don't think many people realize how many people end up on house because of an injury. And, that really woke me up of like, wow, even if you have health insurance, maybe your deductible is so high or the things you have to pay out of pocket. And, I think about David in this book and how his back surgery cost him $100,000.
It's crazy.
And I remember him saying he owned a home and he thought if he sold his home and paid off the debt, he'd be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he did. And then he was bedridden 10 months to recover. And he's like, I couldn't work for 10 months and I just couldn't afford my rent in my apartment then. And so I lost it all.
That's crazy. That is devastating
to
hear. Because, and how many times have people had surgery or had an injury and then they get addicted to the drugs that they're taking? There's so many ways you can go with that conversation of just like how this world seems to work against anyone who's not part of the 1%.
Wow. Yeah.
It just feels like the game is rigged.
Yes.
It feels like it is extremely skewed and I see it and I clock it. And that's why it's really hard for me sometimes to like feel like, do I want to live the life I'm living? How selfish it is. And like, Hollywood and what we were talking about how like people come up to you and they see if you're worth their while to talk to based on who they think you are as a person versus like who you just are as a person.
Yeah.
In the two senses of like, they're looking for the status and how they can use you versus like, maybe they just need someone to talk to. And it's so rare.
Yeah.
It makes
so
me,
true.
Yeah, it makes me like, I feel like all the friends that I have, like I don't have a ton of friends, but the friends I do have, we're able to sit and talk about like real things and like we connect on another level versus like, I'm like, oh, put me on your story. Cause I've had people like I've run in circles that like, I used to work with a bunch of YouTubers and I feel like there would be other girls on set like me and they'd be like, oh, like make sure you tag me in your story. And I would just never ask because it's so cringy to me. It's so cringy. I can't do it. Like even if I see a celebrity I like, I'm not asking you to take a picture with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to take a picture with you. I want to be your friend if I even care about anything. Like I don't want like, I don't know, status is so sought after here in a way that like, I'm just like, do I even want to do this? Like it's, as an actress, how do you deal with like both sides of that?
Oh man, both sides of being an actor and a writer.
Just like being an actress and like chasing this thing that is so in a way it's everything that like you doesn't seem like you are as a person because I know I like have conflicting feelings, but it's like it's like it's an art form that's still so like precious to me. It's so sacred to me, but sometimes the way that this industry is it really taints it for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so true. Everything you're saying is so relatable. Yeah, I feel like, well, to answer your question, I think when I first came here, I love to tell stories. Any chance to be on set, oh my goodness, amazing. And I think as I stayed here longer, I heard an interview with an actor, a female actor. I can't remember who it was. And she was just like, no's a full sentence. And if you say
Oh, I
no
love
to
that.
the writing you don't believe in, you'll find the writing and stories you do believe in just start coming in. And so whenever acting roles would come in and I was like, I don't want to spend my time putting that story in the world. No. And I find, you know, jobs are so scarce and I'd love to be on set, but I found when I started doing that, slowly the stories I really loved and I thought would heal people or help people started to come. And I think what I wish somebody would have told little Sarah when she moved here from Tennessee is there are agents out here who care about people and stories.
Mhm.
There's so many who just like, okay, you say no to one job, like
Oh,
I'm not going to sign you or,
absolutely.
And so, yeah, that's what I have found in my journey of like, the more I say no, the more I find I'm aligned with what I want to do. But it also means there's, less auditions. And then so it's that discomfort of like,
Yeah,
will I ever get another audition? Will there ever be another story?
absolutely. Because I mean, I had my last agent. I signed with her, and she got me some really good auditions. And then a lot of the auditions were full nude, no lines. And I was like, no, you can come back with that whenever it is House of Dragon, and I am going to be a lead on the show, and we're talking about a body double because hell no. And she's like, well, it's a good casting director. I'm like, I don't have any lines. I'm dead and I'm naked. I'm completely naked. And then she got like offended, and she's like, well, what's your line? I'm like, my line is, I'm not showing bits and pieces. Like I will be naked, but like cover the bits, cover the bits.
Yeah.
And she's like, they don't do that. And I'm like, then I don't do that.
Did y'all stay together?
No.
Oh,
No. She
yeah.
got really upset with me
Mhm.
because I asked if I could sign with someone else commercially. And then instead of having a conversation, she dropped me, which is fine. You're allowed to, but it's kind of a temper tantrum that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
She wasn't even like getting me commercial auditions. Whatever. It's neither here nor there. She's a great casting. She's a great agent. We just weren't good together. We didn't want the same things. I was raised very conservatively, and so it's really hard for me to even consider, like I do very risque photo shoots sometimes. I'm comfortable with those because I'm in control of what comes out.
Yeah.
But there are little bitty pieces of me that I just don't see the need to show people. There's some parts of me that I'm like, that's for me. That's just for me. Sorry. And that's kind of how I feel now. Of course, if House of Dragon calls, I can be swayed. I can be negotiated. I will try to negotiate a body double really, really hard, but I can be swayed.
Wow.
But yeah.
Speaking on that, something I discovered is how many agents were former actors. Yeah. And I've really started to see how few agents went to school for a business major or to be an agent. And so I started to have this perspective, oh, no wonder some of these agents are unkind or they don't really know what they're doing or how to communicate because they never came here to be an agent.
Yeah.
So in some ways, they're not really, maybe fully qualified.
I would agree. I've actually not been very lucky with agents or managers at all, which is the biggest hindrance in my career. So if you are watching this now and I seem like somebody you would like to shape and mold, hit me up. My DMs are open. Because I've just not had very good luck. I need to reach out some more, but I think that my social media, one of the biggest reasons I started this podcast is to show my personality.
Yeah.
Because I think my photos, I want to present them in a certain way, but they're like void of personality sometimes. I struggle with like still images and personality. And I think I just really wanted to be like, I'm actually kind of funny. Or at least I think I'm funny.
Yeah.
If I was going to make a joke pertaining to this episode, I would talk about how I'm an advocate for the homeless community because my ex-boyfriend was homeless whenever I started dating him and I took him into my home and, it was charity work.
Well, you're have
welcome.
a great heart.
Thank you. Yeah. Regret it now. Do regret it now. You should never do that. There's a word for it now. What's the word?
Mistake.
That is also the word, but there's an actual word for men that are homeless that date somebody. Hobosexual. Thank you, Brandon.
I've never heard of this.
Thank you. That is my ex-boyfriend, a hobosexual. And
homosexual.
I would have got there eventually, but I had every girl he's ever dated in my DMs when we broke up being like, he only ever made you his girlfriend because he was about to be homeless. And I said, girl, I know. I thought that was our love story, you know? I
Yeah.
built him into the man he is. You're welcome. I mean, don't date him still, but
Did he
you're
tell you
welcome.
he was homeless right away, or it came
He
out?
literally, like, we were dating for 3 months and he was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna like have to sell everything and live in my car. And I was like, babe, no, like, come live with me.
Yeah.
Stupid. Should have seen that coming.
Oh,
You just see abs and like 6'4" and you're just like, what could go wrong? And then you're like, oh, he's blonde. Everything. Blonde men are evil. If you found a good one, check his phone. No, but it's this not a comedy.
no, these are
This is the comedy segment of this
tidbits for dating in
podcast.
LA.
Tidbits, don't go to New York. No, yeah. So that was my comedy special for this. It's not a
I
comedy.
think a lot more
but
people live in our cars than we realize.
Yes.
I've definitely discovered that of like, wow.
a lot of the men I've dated for sure. So
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think when I talked to my therapist about this, actually, she was like, most people are comfortable in their economic bracket and they're uncomfortable dating outside of it, even if it's a better bracket. And I am one of those people that I feel very uncomfortable with people that have wealth in any sense, or that I think have wealth. I'm uncomfortable dating them because I feel like our power dynamic shifts in a way that puts me at a deficit, and I don't like it. It makes me, like a lot of girls here would, I want to like it. I love the idea of having a sugar daddy or marrying rich. I just can't do it. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, a guy's like, I'll pay for you. I'll buy you this. I'm like, I can do it myself. And then I'm like, well, I can't buy that. I can thrift it. Okay. I can thrift it better.
Well, you're a very strong, confident woman. So
Thank
I feel
you.
like you need a strong, confident man.
I do.
To match.
I would like a strong, confident man with a job. So if you're watching,
Yeah,
if you have one, also my DMs are still open. But no, it's very interesting when my therapist told me that, because my sister also, we were talking about it because we both have the same problem. And I think that, you know, meeting people as humans, which is kind of what we're talking about, and just seeing them for what they are is something that I used to be better at. And I feel like I'm still okay with, but I feel like LA has worn me down a bit. And I kind of want to get back to, not in a dating sense. I don't want to date people that I see as humans. I want to know what their bank account looks like. I'm scared now.
Yeah.
But like,
that's
you know.
that's a beautiful thing to say. Because I think too, when you live in a big city, I feel like a lot harder sometimes to interact with the homeless community because there's so many people we see all the time.
Well, something that I've really wanted to do ever since, I've wanted to do it for a while, but especially since my breakup, when I talk about like sometimes helping someone else makes my day. And I've gone through really bad depression this summer. I feel like I'm on the other side of it, very like farther on the other side of it, but like just volunteering. And I found a really great person from my job that actually was like, come to this shelter. People love you. There's a great community of people that volunteer. And I haven't done it yet, but if anyone wants to come volunteer with me, I'd be more apt to do it. Cause I actually have lots of social anxiety and I get scared to do things by myself. But I think it is a way to like, not only give back, but to stop seeing people as like jumping, like, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? Having just going somewhere and being like, I'm just here to do something for you. It's just, how often do we get that chance? Or how often do we give ourselves the chance to do that?
Yeah, that's powerful. And even with what you were saying earlier, I mean, my whole theme and hope of this book is that when people read it, they feel inspired to befriend one homeless person. Maybe that person you pass every day. And I was just thinking of you as you were talking about how you made these sandwiches, and there was this one person that stuck out to you and you just always gave them the sandwiches. It was fascinating listening to you because that's my whole hope of this book. If we all just befriended one person, what amazing things could come from that.
And your book just came out 3 weeks ago. I have not read it. This is my first copy. And it's also nominated for a Pulitzer, or it did win. Has it won?
It's in consideration.
It's in consideration.
Now, I guess they announced them April 2026. I also
Congratulations.
don't know. Well, thank you.
Just being nominated. I mean, that's incredible. So with that being said, please go get your copy of I'm Human Too. Is it on iTunes yet? Can people listen to it?
Oh, great question. It is not an audiobook yet, but it is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Fantastic. Do you have any signings coming up?
Oh, wow. Well, I actually just got back from Nashville.
Amazing.
I had a signing there. I had a signing in LA. I might be doing one on the West Side in a few weeks.
Amazing. Go get your book signed. Go get your copy. I'm excited to read this. This is just such an interesting thing that you've done here. And I really hope that people read this and take it into consideration what you the love and the sweat and tears you put into this. And
Oh,
thank you so much for coming.
oh, thank you for having me. This
Of
was
course.
great.
Guys, thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. Like and comment, and I'll see you next time.